My name's Daver, and I'm going to show you how to make 5 last-minute holiday gifts using scrap wood. This is Daver Made. Well, it's that time of year already, and you may be running out of time to find some gifts. Now, if you're like me, you have a lot of scrap wood laying around that you don't really know what to do with. Instead of throwing away your scrap wood, why not just give it to somebody else? Now, for this video, I decided to challenge myself and picture if I had no time left to get a gift. What were 5 different things I could make out of scrap wood in my shop? I picked each of these gifts because they were relatively fast to make. The longest part, I would say, is probably waiting for the stain and the finish to dry. However, other than that, you should be able to knock these out very fast. All right, enough talking. Let's get into the video. Number 1, chalkboard sign. I'm using a pallet board to make this sign. I found the straightest board I could find and cut off the ends where the nail holes were, just to kind of even it all out. Keeping in the spirit of this video, I decided to save some time and run it through my thickness planer to get it smooth on both sides. Now, you don't need to use a thickness planer. You could sand this, but that'll take you a lot of extra time. I used a pocket plane to cut down the rough edges on this pallet board. And then once I was finished with that, I used my random orbital sander to make it extra smooth, and then used wood filler to fill the nail holes in the middle of the board. Then I stained the back using American walnut stain, and then applied 2 coats of Valspar black chalkboard paint. And that's pretty much all there is to this gift. It's super simple, the paint dries very quickly, and it's ready to be chalked or chalked on, or I don't know what you call it, but you know what I mean. Number 2, dog leash holder. For this gift idea, I'm using what I think is a scrap piece of cedar. I'm not really sure, but you can use any kind of wood for this. Once I cut it down to its final length, I ran it through my surface planer just to save some time on sanding, and I was extremely happy with the results. As you can see here, this is a beautiful piece of wood. Then I ran it through my router just for aesthetic purposes to kind of clean up those edges and make it look nicer. Then with my random orbital sander, I used 320 grit sandpaper to make it extra smooth. And then I gave it a couple coats of American walnut stain. I found this drawer pull at my local craft store and wanted to use it as a leash holder, in addition to a coat hook that would hold a dog harness. I drilled pilot holes and then attached the hardware to the board, but in the process, when I was drilling the dog leash holder's hole, I drilled right through and into my table. Whoops. Now, since I was using a drawer pull, the bolt for it stuck out a little bit, so I used a Forstner bit to drill in a recess, so I had a place where the nut could screw into it, and then I had to use this little hacksaw to cut the excess off so it sat flush against the wall. To put it on the wall, I attached a sawtooth picture frame holder, and once I had that in there, I added some picture frame bumpers. And to finish this, I used some paste wax. However, I should have probably put this on before installing the hardware, but I was in a hurry. This gift is perfect for any dog owner and is a very simple one that you could make. Number 3, phone stand. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this gift seems simple on paper, but actually turned out to be a big pain in the ass. I'm using a 2x4 that I need to cut a 50-degree angle into, and I didn't realize that the riving knife would need to be removed from my table saw, so I ended up cutting this angle on my miter saw. Now, that said, it didn't leave the slot that I had cut very smooth, so I needed to go back with a chisel and flatten out this slot where the phone would sit. I then used a file to get the pieces the chisel didn't get, and then sanded the entire thing down. Now, I didn't film it, but I ended up cutting the back at an angle as well. And then I decided to tape the entire thing because I was going to paint the slot black while staining the rest of the body. However, this didn't ultimately work out because I didn't really like how it looked, and I used some dark walnut stain here, but it wasn't vibing. So I went ahead and murdered out this thing and painted it all black. And then to protect whatever surface it was being put on, I added some picture frame bumpers on the bottom. While this isn't my favorite gift I made, I do think it looks pretty cool, and I think it would be a nice gift for somebody. I mean, I'd like it if someone gave it to me. Number 4, Rustic Picture Holder. For this picture holder, I'm using, you guessed it, pallet boards because they look like garbage. I mean rustic. Now these pallet boards still had some old rusty nails in them, and you don't want to give rusty nails to somebody as a gift, so I cut them off at the miter saw and then also squared both the boards up. I didn't plane these down because I wanted to keep that rustic look, so I just sanded them lightly, and they look actually pretty nice. I then stained them with American walnut, which I think was a really nice color for these. In order to keep this together, I'm using trim pieces with some quick and thick glue by Type Bond. Now the reason why I'm using this is because it's quick, and I don't have a lot of time, and it's thick. It holds very well. Then clamped it all together and let it dry. And once it was dry, I added some paper clips that would hold the photos, and I used some rapid fuse super glue. This took no time and was extremely strong. And then I used paste wax to finish off the front and attached a wire picture frame holder on the back using nails. In all seriousness, I think this gift is really nice for those who like that rustic look and is really great for holding pictures. These are 4x4 photos, but you can use bigger ones if you choose to. Number 5, Beer Flight. For this gift, I'm using a pallet board again. I have a bunch of them and I really don't know what to do with them, so why not make gifts out of them? After cutting it down on the miter saw, I put it on my jointer sled, but realized that this was probably a mistake because it was a little too short and I had to feed this thing halfway through. But once I got the top flat, I took it off the sled and put it through the thickness planer to get it nice and flat and smooth. I then placed out the mini beer glasses that would go with this beer flight in order to get the spacing so I could drill the holes, and I'll link these in the description below. Using a 2-inch Forstner bit, I drilled the holes where the glasses would sit. However, this board wasn't deep enough for them to sit securely, as I found out after testing. So I then decided to drill all the way through so the glasses would sit securely after you pick the board up. After lots of drilling, I was able to test the board again, and success! Then I routed all the edges just to hide the fact that this was a pallet board, and also to pretty this up a little bit more. I then used black Star Bond CA glue to fill the cracks and voids in the pallet board and to prevent the board from cracking further. To smooth everything out, I sanded with my random orbital sander and then stained with American walnut stain. Once the stain was dry, I used spray shellac, which dries pretty quickly. After a couple coats and sanding in between, I was ready to put on the hardware. I'm using some drawer pulls from an old vanity that I restored earlier this year, and I thought they'd look pretty good on this beer flight. I have to say that this is the perfect gift for any beer connoisseur and is fairly simple to make. You could also make this a whiskey flight or a tequila flight. You just have to change the size of the holes depending on the glasses you use. I hope this video gave you some ideas for last-minute gifts you can make. Now, you don't have much time, so get in the shop and make something. Happy holidays, and I'll see you next year. Thanks for watching.